How much of the decline in the market today is because of the decline in oil prices here?
Well, I think a great deal of it, and it is, as Bill just alluded to, beginning to spill out into other areas. I mean, obviously, part of the sell-off is Chevron and Exxon, but as you said, Goldman Sachs, among others. And the concern is particularly about the high yield end. A lot of the small fracking companies and others are thought to have exposure there. And the ETF, the JNK, junk for the high yield sector, took out the October, the Ebola lows today. So that shows you that people are really concerned about the financials, particularly the high yield end.
Brady, are we early on this call? Are you seeing evidence of strains in the financial sector as a result of debt issues regarding energy?
Bill, it's not really a debt issue for a lot of the banks that I cover. The investor focus for the regional banks is predominantly in the states like Texas and Oklahoma that have a lot of energy exposure. And when you look at those states, a lot of those stocks, as we've seen oil fall, a lot from Thanksgiving, these stocks are off 10 to 15%. And a lot of these regional banks have, 10 to 15 to 20% of their loan portfolio in energy. So it's definitely a concern and something that's spooking bank investors in those economies.
But my question is, are we seeing evidence of potential default as a result of this, or are we just anticipating this is a logical next step if the price of oil continues lower? Are we actually getting evidence that companies are threatening default because of the low price?
Yeah, as of now, it's primarily anticipation. If you look at the banks, it's really going to take lower oil for longer to really show up as a credit issue. A lot of these banks have made sure that their energy companies have production hedged for another year or two. So it's going to take a while for this really to show up in the financials in a material way. So right now it's just on the threat.
So what happens to the market in the meantime, Mark, do you think?
Well, the concern here today would have been a perfect day for the buy the dippers. After the big turnaround yesterday, it would have been perfect. Didn't happen. And that's because we're seeing early concerns about contagion, that it's beginning to spill over into other assets. They're not worried enough to put on the hazmat suits yet, but you can see that the concern about contagion is there.